Hello friends. So recently I posted a video where I was talking about using some visual aids to help students with dyscalculia. So here's what I said. Just cannot get those times tables memorized. Keep in mind there are some things you can do to help them. Now yes, it's not gonna do the fluency part, but it's gonna get them efficient. It's going to help them practice. It's going to build their confidence. It's going to give them accuracy. And all of those things should help lead to better fluency. Not perfect. Here's what I did not say. I did not say that these visual aids would help students memorize anything. What I'm hoping to do is to help teachers, parents, anyone who has a student who struggles with math, whether it be because of dyscalculia or some other reason, using these visual aids correctly, regularly, will help them. So let's get started. This is your worksheet for this morning's activity in class. Now, I know exactly what you're thinking. You're thinking, these kids need to be able to do this with memory, and that means you're not dealing with a student who has dyscalculia if they can memorize it. That's the whole point. These students that we are using these visual aids for, this is putting them on the same level as those students who can memorize it. So, the masters just came. Think about handicap. The higher your handicap, the newer of a player you are, and you can't compete with these better players. So they let you kind of play around with your score. Tools. Let's use them. So we have a student who just cannot memorize them. Okay, how can we help them feel better about math? Once they feel better about math, then you can have more discussions. Let's say you're at home. This is the homework page, and you are going out of your mind because they keep saying, but I have to have them memorized. Well, not today, not right now, and maybe not ever. So in the meantime, what we're going to do is practice getting the right answer so that we can feel better about what these all mean. So this is what we're using. A times tables listing, not a chart where they have to graph it, but a listing. Okay, so 1 times 8, I'm going to look at 1 times 8, and the answer is 8. I'm going to write it down. 7 times 5, I'm going to look for the 7 times 5, 35. I'm going to write it down. So we're using this to help find the correct answer. We're reducing cognitive load because our student is no longer crying and upset and no longer feels like they're stupid. They are going to practice working with the chart, the list, finding the right answer, getting more comfortable with math, having a good experience. Remember, it's 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade. Why are we pressuring them? And don't tell me it's because of the end of the year test. We all know if you showed up one day and your principal came in for that day to give you a review and the kid was off the charts, didn't take his medicine that day, you got marked down, you would not feel so great about that, review that day. So let's not put that kind of pressure on a 2nd, 3rd, 4th grader. Let's just help them feel better about math. Give them the listing. Let them practice it. Tell them to use it for homework. Let them use it in class when you're practicing stuff. So that's one tip. Okay. Okay, so here is one of the questions from the worksheet, 67 times 2. Now, how can we use the listing to help us and our students to solve this question? Now, some of you really like to use the algorithm, right? With, carrying over, regrouping. So let's start with 2 times 7. I can look at my chart. If I'm a student and I'm looking, 2 times 7 is 14. So if I'm using the algorithm that you want me to use, then I would put the 4 down here and I carry the 1, right? And then now I do 2 times 6. Looking at my list, 2 times 6 is 12. And then I have to add the 1, and that makes what, 13. So now this is assuming that you've practiced the algorithm, you think they have a good understanding of how it works. They're gonna remember to add the 1, they're gonna remember to carry it over, right? So that is one way that we can use the times chart to show 67 times 2. But what if we're trying to use a different method to solve this problem? Maybe like place value. The 7 is in the 1's position, so we're gonna put 7 times 2 here. The 6 is in the 10's position, so we're gonna do 60 times 2. Now again, if my student remembers this method, because it's all about how do you get to the answer, not about can you do it the way I want you to do it, which I know a lot of times is difficult for us as teachers and parents, because believe me, it took me a while to understand this because I was taught the old way, right? But anyways, moving on, 7 times 2. Oh, I forgot what that is. So I'm going back to my chart. 7 times 2. Now notice this time we're doing 7 times 2, not 2 times 7. However, 7 times 2 is 14. My writing. Come on now, work with me, paper. And then 60 times 2. Oh my goodness. Well, my chart doesn't have 60 on it. So we might have to remind our students, okay, any number times 0 is 0, right? So 2 times 0 will give me the 0. What was 2 times 6 again? Let me go back here. 2 times 6 is 12. So what we're doing is we're trying to provide students with reinforcements, reducing that cognitive load, giving them opportunities to say, this is what I remember, this is what I can figure out, here's something to help me feel better about this whole multiplication stuff. And then now we're talking about adding. Okay, so again, just in case you're wondering, I do have information on how to help students add using a number line, but we'll deal with that in a different video. So for now, that's how we can use this times tables list to try to help our students with multiplying 2-digit by 1-digit numbers. Okay, now here is where we get real exciting stuff. We're gonna work with the times tables list and another tool that I'll show you in a minute. But so let's talk about 43 times 21. Again, the student is using the algorithm with this example, so they're carrying over, they're bringing things down, right? So 1 times 3, in case I forget, 1 times 3 is 3. Remembering now we do 1 times 4. 1 times 4 is 4. Now we have to remind our students, don't forget, we're moving over to the tens place, right? So again, the algorithm is what we're practicing here. So 2 times 3, I don't remember. Oh, it's 6, okay. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 4. 2 times 4 is 8. So now we have the 8. And we're gonna have to add these numbers together, right? So we have 3, 4 plus 6 is 10. We're gonna carry over. 1 plus 8 is 9. And our answer is 903. But let's say, all right, we don't have that going on with us just yet. What can I do another way? So you'll see I wrote out the information. So again, the question is 43 times 21. So thinking 1 times 3, if I need to double check, yep, 3. 1 times 40 because we have 40 and 3. So, but it's not up here. Okay, just a reminder. 1 times any number is going to be that number. So, oh yeah, 1 times 40 is going to be 40. All right, but now we're looking 20 or over here. What if the student is just like, I'm lost. But you have this calculator and you're like, you know what? We'll come back to why it's 20 and stuff. We'll come back to all of our times tables later. But for right now, we want to just practice this algorithm, or we want to practice this process. So we're going to bring out our little dollar store calculator, nothing fancy. We're not trying to chat GPT old school, new school way. We just want them to learn the steps and feel better about math. So especially if this is homework time, parents are going to be like, use your phone calculator, because I do it all the time. But so we're going to do 20 times 3. That's going to give me 60. Oh my goodness, 20 times 40. And I know some of you are thinking, why not just teach them the rule where you remember to put the zeros and then times this and that, because they're not going to remember that. So unless you have some kind of review paper, worked example, which is another thing we could talk about in another video, we're going to try to use these tools just to help practice the process. And now we're going to add all this up. And again, I really want them to practice the process. So I'm just going to, let them use the calculator. 3 plus 40 plus 60 plus 800 is 903. So if I am just wanting them to be able to get the answer and not cry for 5 minutes because it stresses them out to have all these things memorized that they just cannot memorize because the parietal lobe does not let them, we're going to give them some tools. We all use tools in our daily life. Let's start using them with our students. So now that you've seen how you can use the times tables listing to help your students or your own child with their math assignments, make sure that you share the video, maybe subscribe to the channel, check out my Teacher Pay Teacher store, because I have a lot of worksheets with the accommodation, the visual aid already on there, and you can just download them, use them, send them as homework, and it's all right there. So thank you. I would love to know how it worked out for you with your students.